Volcanoes are perhaps the most fascinating natural disasters in terms of appearance. When volcanoes erupt, they create truly magnificent sights, and every year thousands of people travel near small volcanoes to camp and capture those breathtaking views. However, what may seem magnificent to some can be a sign of disaster and a message of death to others. Today, I will tell you about the legendary and tragic Pompeii disaster, an event that happened many years ago and still fascinates countless people to this day. A volcano, and hundreds of people, children and animals trying to escape from it. Unfortunately, their fate was the same. Before we begin our video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy my content, and share your ideas for new videos in the comments. Now, if you're ready, let's step together into the heart of the catastrophe. First of all, volcanoes are the vents that allow the immense energy accumulated within the Earth's inner layers to escape to the surface. At the center of our planet lies the core, a region composed of metals and rocks in a molten state, existing at extraordinary temperatures thousands of kilometers deep. The heat radiating from this core warms the mantle, causing some of the rocks within it to melt and form magma. This magma, under immense pressure, slowly rises upward through weak points in the Earth's crust. This process can take millions of years, which is why some eruptions release such enormous energy. When the magma becomes powerful enough to reach the surface, it suddenly breaks through the crust, violently ejecting lava, ash, gas, and rock fragments, resulting in a volcanic eruption. As we mentioned, these eruptions are among the most destructive, yet most mesmerizing events in nature. Each eruption not only destroys life, but also reshapes the land. After such eruptions, new islands, mountains, and fertile soils are formed. Depending on the intensity of the eruption, it can permanently alter both its surroundings and the human civilizations nearby. One of these massive eruptions went down in history as one of the most famous natural disasters of all time, the tragedy of Pompeii. The city of Pompeii was, at the time, one of the most prosperous cities in the Roman Empire. It was located near the Bay of Naples at the foot of Mount Vesuvius. The city perfectly embodied Roman culture. You could feel the spirit of Rome in every corner, with its wide stone streets, mosaic-covered houses, theaters, baths, and temples. Pompeii was one of the most advanced cities of its era. Most of its inhabitants were traders, spending their time by the sea, engaging in art and entertainment, and living a carefree life, as if they were in paradise. But when the year 79 AD arrived, all of that would turn into a nightmare. Many people did not know that beneath the very ground which brought them prosperity, happiness, peace, and abundance, a sleeping monster was waiting to awaken. Mount Vesuvius had been silent for a very long time, and that silence was actually a sign of enormous pressure building up inside. Most people, however, saw this silence as a sign of peace and had no fear at all. Yet deep beneath the surface, magma pressure was increasing, gases were getting trapped, and the first signs of the great eruption were being felt as small tremors. As you might guess, in those days, people knew almost nothing about earthquakes or natural disasters in general, so they had no idea what was causing these vibrations. Because of this, no one could predict the approaching eruption, and no one could prepare for it. Then on the morning of August 24th, 79 AD, the mountain suddenly and violently exploded. The first eruption sent a massive roar into the sky, launching a storm of ash and rock. The sun seemed to hide behind the thick clouds of ash, as if cowering in fear, and suddenly disappeared. Day instantly turned into night, and the people, still in shock from the explosion, were now terrified by the darkness. Some began shouting that they had been cursed, running through the streets and trying to warn others. The ash clouds were so dense and thick that even towns miles away found their skies darkened. Soon after, a deadly mixture of lava and gas burst from the volcano, forming a giant column that rose high into the atmosphere. Within minutes, this column reached several kilometers in height. As the gases cooled and the column collapsed, a deadly flow of superheated ash and gas, known as a pyroclastic surge, began racing toward Pompeii. This flow was so hot that it incinerated everything in its path within seconds. According to estimates, the temperature of the flow reached up to 700 degrees Celsius. At first, the people of Pompeii thought it was just a temporary eruption. Some quickly gathered their belongings and tried to flee, while others sought refuge in the basements beneath their homes. But it didn't take long for the rain of ash to become so thick that breathing was nearly impossible. Anyone who has ever been inside a sauna knows how hard it can be to breathe when the temperature is too high or if you stay inside for too long. What the people of Pompeii experienced was far worse, suffocating heat and toxic air filling their lungs. As people ran through the streets in panic, ashes and stones rained down upon them. Many took different escape routes. Some fled toward the harbor, others to temples and shelters, praying desperately to their gods. But every word, every prayer, and every attempt to escape was in vain. Nothing could stand against the fury of nature that day. The eruption continued for hours in powerful waves. Just like the relentless waves of an ocean crashing repeatedly against the shore, Mount Vesuvius erupted again and again, sending out surges of destruction. Each new wave released more gas, more rocks, and more ash, covering Pompeii even deeper. The entire city was buried under meters of volcanic debris and ash, and the people of Pompeii, in a haunting and unforgettable way, remained frozen exactly as they were in their final moments. Their faces filled with terror, and their bodies, locked in their last gestures, were preserved by the volcanic ash as if time itself had stopped. Centuries later, when archaeologists uncovered these remains, they could clearly see the final moments of these people, perfectly captured in stone. Each body told a story. Some were clinging to their loved ones, others were huddled together in fear, mothers holding their children tightly, and a few kneeling in prayer. Pompeii had become a city sealed in time, a moment of history perfectly preserved by disaster. After the eruption, Mount Vesuvius continued to spew lava for a while longer before finally falling silent. The city, however, had completely vanished. For centuries, Pompeii was lost, buried and forgotten by the world. No one knew what had once stood there, and no one could imagine that beneath the ground lay an entire Roman city frozen in its final moments. It wasn't until the mid-18th century, in 1748, that workers digging in the area accidentally discovered hardened layers of volcanic material covering strange remains. This would become one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in human history. The city that emerged from beneath the earth was almost exactly as it had been on the day of the disaster. The thick ash that had buried Pompeii for centuries had also protected it, acting like a natural time capsule. Everything was still in place: the houses with their wall paintings and mosaics, the everyday items left behind, the carts abandoned in the streets, all perfectly preserved. The discovery of Pompeii reminded humanity once again how powerless we truly are against the forces of nature. No matter how prepared we think we are, nature can strike suddenly and with unimaginable power. At the same time, Pompeii became an invaluable window into the past, allowing scientists to study the art, architecture, and daily life of an ancient civilization. Today, the city of Pompeii stands as both a treasure of history and a warning to humanity. Mount Vesuvius, still an active volcano, is closely monitored by scientists, because as history has shown us, nature can never be fully controlled or underestimated. Although Pompeii is the most famous of these volcanic disasters, throughout history, many other nations and communities have suffered the wrath of volcanoes. For example, in a time not so far from us, in 1883, a massive volcano erupted on the island of Krakatoa in Indonesia. This disaster went down in human history as perhaps the most destructive volcanic eruption after Pompeii. The explosion was so powerful that the sound waves it produced traveled around the world 7 times. Unfortunately, this eruption claimed the lives of 36,000 people. Yes, you heard that right. 36,000 lives lost. That's more than the population of many towns and villages in Europe today. Just imagine the scale of that destruction. In addition, the eruption triggered massive tsunami waves that reached up to 40 meters in height. Countless islands in the surrounding area were swallowed by the sea and completely vanished. Just like in Pompeii, the thick ash clouds that filled the atmosphere blocked sunlight from reaching the earth for days, and for months the daylight remained dim and lifeless. In some regions, people even witnessed what was called a blue moon. But perhaps the most shocking consequence was the drop in global temperatures. The average temperature on Earth fell by 1.2 degrees Celsius. This might sound small, but scientifically that's an enormous and world-changing number. So, my friends, a single volcanic eruption has the power to end the lives of 36,000 people. What's more, about 70 years before this eruption, Indonesia experienced another catastrophic volcanic event, one even more destructive than Krakatoa. That eruption will be the topic of one of our upcoming videos, so make sure to stay tuned and don't miss it, because it's truly one of the most fascinating and unforgettable disasters in history. Now, although Pompeii is an ancient tragedy, when it comes to such disasters, It remains like a leader, always remembered, always at the forefront, because despite its tragedy, it stands as a magnificent historical evidence and a lesson for humanity. When you think about those days, it's impossible not to wonder, what were those people doing at that very moment? How did they react when they saw the sky darken and the ground tremble beneath them? Just imagining it stirs deep emotions. Pompeii, once a paradise symbolizing culture, art, beauty, peace, and prosperity, suddenly faced a catastrophe that erased it from existence. And that's what makes us so curious, that human connection to the unknown past. Perhaps there are still countless things we haven't yet discovered about that city. Only new studies and future excavations will reveal them to us. And when that day comes, I'll be right here again, excited to tell you all about it. But for now, that's all from me today. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you like videos like this, make sure to leave a like and share your new video ideas down below in the comments. I'm off now to research and find new reliable sources for the next story. Until then, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and goodbye.